This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our residence and off-campus student staff hiring info session. So my name is Jennifer Hinton, and I am the manager residence life here at University College. I will not be here alone, so I have a number of student staff as well as another professional staff member who will be helping support. So I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves with my colleague, Vidhi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vidhi. I'm the coordinator of student community development here at University College. Excited to be talking about hiring today. I'm going to pass it off to the Dons first to introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ahad. I use he, him pronouns. I'm one of the residence dons at Whitney Hall. Pass it over to my colleague Fatima.
Hi everyone, my name is Fatima. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a residence don at Sardans. I'll pass it over to the Coco.
Thank you, Fatima. Hi, everyone. My name is Louisa. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm a community coordinator here at UC. And I'm going to pass it over to Masfira.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miss Fira, and I am a community assistant here at UC.
Okay, great. We'll get started right away. But just to start, we'd always love to do a land acknowledgement. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron, Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. I'll pass it back off to Vic.
Thank you so much for that, Ahad. All right, before we get started, I did want to provide all of you with a little bit of a session outline of what we'll be talking about today. So we're going to start off with University College values, have a conversation about what some of our values are here at University College and some of the values we hold with our student staff. We're going to go into what is a Don, the outline of what a Don is, and also what the outline of a UC Don is and what that looks like. We're going to talk about what a community assistant is. If you hear us using acronyms like CA and COCO, they refer to community assistant and community coordinator, just to clarify. So we're going to talk about what a community assistant is and what a community coordinator is. Talk a little bit about the application process, and then at the end, we will have a Q&A session with our student staff here. We'll be pulling up some of the questions that some of you submitted within when you signed up for this session. And then if we have some additional time after that, we will also be answering some of the questions that are in the chat.
Great, and I'm going to take it right back. So we'll start off this discussion of the University College values by asking you. I'd like you to brainstorm. What do you think some of the values are of University College? And feel free to use the chat or unmute, whatever you feel is most comfortable. Diversity, inclusion, and UC spirit. Definitely, without a doubt, equity, diversity, and inclusivity are values that we work with every single day. Respect and integrity, community, some really good ideas coming in. Yeah, it looks like you guys have really nailed it. I'll give a second for anyone else who's still typing. Okay, we'll move on. Yeah, fostering community is another one too. So UC has a vision statement, which I'll read in a bit. But we have multiple values, and we talked about a lot of them previously, diversity, inclusion, etc. And what we've done is we focus on preparing students to engage in the wider world with residence-wide specific programs and house-specific events. But not only that, we have a lot of programs for our off-campus community as well that Louisa and Musfira will mention later. Specifically from the Don perspective, we have three Don roles. I'll speak a little bit about this later, but the Residence Don and the Program Don. And so Residence Dons work on house-specific programming that includes a lot of these specific values that we try to outline, and we try to isolate them into four major learning goals. They are reconciliation, decolonization, lifelong learning, community engagement, responsibility, and finally, personal development. And we try to extend these specific learning outcomes into our specific programming. Our program dons who work on res wide, as in programming for all students, across our 3 buildings, so about 700 of them, also focus on these specific values, but it's just on a wider scale. And so, yeah, we're trying to emphasize on helping first-year students, second-year students, learning how to communicate and experience conflict and resolution. Finally, our vision statement is this. University College is a welcoming community built on a long history of non-sectarian education and research that challenges undergraduates to excel intellectually and prepares them to engage in the wider world. Great, I'll move on to what is a Don. And so we're going to go right back into how we started with UC values. What do you think a Don is? I definitely remember when I started, and feel free to use the chat or unmute as you like, but I remember when I filled out the application process, I said, oh, Don is a very interesting word. So I had to do my research. So feel free to use the chat. A leader. Thank you, Fatima. Yeah, there are no wrong answers. Like we'll go through it together. I really encourage you to participate. It's a great opportunity for all of us. But if not, that's okay. We'll move on to the next slide. It is a very holistic role, so sometimes it can be a bit difficult. But a Don is essentially a live-in student staff member. So you'll hear Don say this all the time, but we live where we work and we work where we live. That's essentially what it boils down into. But there's 3 main things that we do. First thing we do is we really help to create a supportive and inclusive residence community, which both values we talked about earlier, that encourages involvement from our residents and mutual respect to meet the needs of all students. Residence is an opportunity for students who, might be new to the country, new to the province, or live in Toronto to be able to really integrate themselves into the university experience. And we're here to support them, make sure that they have the space to feel respected. And that's a huge and very critical part of our role. The second is that we support students with all sorts of things, whether they're personal, academic, or financial. Dons are trained over the summer to really understand and unpack how we can best help our community. And yeah, whether it's being trained in suicide prevention or it's being trained in being able to recommend students to various services, we do it all. And super grateful for the opportunities to do that. And finally, responding to crisis situations. I mentioned this previously, but yeah, Fatima will talk later about what it means to be quote unquote on call. Moving on. We supply information on residents' life, so just updates about what's going on. And we work with residents' life staff, which truly is a blessing. As a residence Don, you get a lot of support from what we call pro staff or professional staff. So we always work with them to facilitate residents' programming. And then finally, I'll read this verbatim, but the University College Residence Don role is a unionized position that is represented by USW Local 1998, College Residence Don Bargaining Unit, something that Jen will speak to a bit later. But yeah. Okay, moving on. Now, what is a UC Don? This time we won't brainstorm, we'll just move right ahead. But a UC Don is a little bit different. All of the colleges have like different versions of the same role. I know, for example, I think it's Trainer Woodsworth that has like an academic Don, so that's a little bit different than what we have. But what we have is really 3 main Dons. We have the residence Dons, which are present in every building. And our 3 buildings are Sir Daniel Wilson, where Fatima lives, Morrison Hall, where neither of us are from, and the Whitney Hall, where I'm from. And so Whitney Hall has like codons, meaning that every house has 2 representatives or Dons. And so the following also have their own. There's also things called LLCs or living learning communities, which is essentially where students live in a community in which they have like-minded students. That's not to say that there isn't like opportunity for other programming besides the LLC, But when students fill out their forms of where they want to live on residence, they can indicate their LLC, and we try to group them together. There's also a head don in each of the 3 buildings. The head don is essentially a peer mentor and someone who takes on a leadership role. There's one in each building. They look after the residence dons and make sure that we're well equipped with everything that we need to do. And our head don, Melissa, at Whitney Hall is phenomenal. So it's always great to have her. And then 2 program dons exist. Jerry and Charlize are program dons, but as I previously mentioned, program dons do a wider scale programming. It's more frequent, it's more often, it's bigger. It's definitely a great and fun role. Move on to the next slide. Here's a little bit of the more specific ones. I'll do an overview of this. You can read through it as well. But yeah, starting with residence don. We mentioned this previously, but student support is a big and definitive part of the role itself. Whether it's mediating house concerns or being on call overnight or responding to crisis situations, we do a lot of student support. There's also a big thing about student one-on-ones, which is where a residence don will meet and sit down with the residents in a one-on-one matter for anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes just to check in and make sure things are going well. And we do this twice a year, so once per each semester. Residence program. So we're expected as residence dons to do house events once per month, which is where we put almost like a social on, and we get a budget, which is really great. So we can bring in food and different supplies, and it's a phenomenal opportunity to do some house bonding. We also do house talks, which occur once per month. Those are optional for our residents, and they provide the opportunity to really go over some key developmental skills. For example, a very recent one we did was conflict resolution. We sat down, had a group discussion like we are here, and talked about how we can resolve conflict to the best of our abilities. There's also a passive, and you'll hear dons talk about passive and active a lot. An active is like your house events. A passive is like a board that's hung up in the stairwell or somewhere in a common room, and it's where dons every month have to, create a theme and have students be able to gain some information. And again, relating back to the learning outcomes I outlined earlier, for example, like lifelong learning. So for mine right now, I think is like how to stay safe in the winter, which fortunately it's not that bad. It's only like a -4. It's not anything too crazy yet, but hopefully it'll be useful in the future when it gets cold. And then meetings, like I mentioned, house meetings, building team meetings or BTMs, which is, for your entire building. So Whitney Hall or Students, for example, full team meetings, which is with student staff, and a bit of the pro staff, and then staff support meetings. We have one-on-ones with our team of professional staff on a monthly basis, and so that really helps us concentrate on our goals. Moving on to the program don, same thing. They have on-call shifts. They do outreach and engagement, student support. Residence programs is a bit different. They have to do 3 to 4 events a month, which is a bit more than the 1 event that residence dons are asked to do. They participate at house talks. They're also at house meetings. Residence dons program dons, to be clear, still live on residence and they're still part of a house. They just take on more programming responsibilities and less specific house responsibilities, if that makes sense. And I can answer questions about that if you have any at the end. And also meetings. So program dons, if any of you are on UCRC, you'll see them attend UCRC GMs. They optionally go to house meetings. So both of our program dons do go, and they're super excited about it. And they go to full team meetings and staff support meetings. Finally, the head don. A head don is a residence don plus. They just take on additional responsibilities, and those are building team supports. So one-on-ones with the dons in the building to make sure they're working towards their goals and they have the support that they need. They also do a huge part of pre-service training. And Louisa will speak on to this, but the COCOs also do this. It's super cool to see perspectives from other people. And they support don hiring, additionally, running building team meetings and whatnot. But yeah, I will pass it off to Fatima now. Forgot this slide. Those overviews are super specific of the don role specifically. It doesn't also include the responsibilities that we have as a staff member and what that means to be a university college staff member. Okay, now we can move on, and I'll pass over to Fatima.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahad. That was a really good rundown, but now let's see what that really looks like in a month, because of course there's it might look slight different. So let's start with the team meeting. So as Ahad kind of mentioned, you're going to meet with your either building team or your full team meeting every week, but they alternate. So it's really good because your building team is smaller, so you can kind of bring up any concerns or questions that you have within the building. And then your full team is really nice because you have the rest of your dons and pro staff or professional staff. And then moving on one-on-one. So as you can see, there's quite a few within this month. Essentially, the expectation is that you're doing one with every student each semester. So that's why there's quite a few going on in this month specifically, because you want to space them out. You're also a student on top of that, so make sure you start early. And those can last roughly 30 minutes, depending on your time, but yeah, a minimum 30. On-call shifts. So Had kind of touched on this, but essentially on-call shifts, every Don is going to have roughly 2 to 3 every month. And what that entails is doing rounds, holding the on-call phone. If there's any concerns or crises that come up within your shift, you have to address that. And then also following the next day of documentation. And those are kind of spread out within this month as well. They can land on either a weekday or a weekend. It just depends. Next is your one-on-one with professional staff. So we have some professional staff here. It's really great because they're a really good support. You talk with them. It's just a good update that happens throughout the semester. Next is really fun. It's a house social event. Ahad talked about this as well. It's our active, and these are really nice because you get to plan them from scratch. Essentially, whatever you feel your students will really like. I've done a s'mores event, which was really fun. People ate all our s'mores that were there, so that was really good. And we lit a nice fire here in Sir Dan's. And then you can also do a skating night. So a few of the Dons did an event at the varsity. And yeah, they're really anything. It's just a way for students to get involved. Next is our house exec meeting. This happens right before your house meeting, but essentially every house has a house council, which consists of a few roles like president, treasurer, vice president, secretary. And you want to meet with them because they are essentially your in on the students directly. So you want to ask them, are there any concerns, questions? You want to ask them how they're doing because they have some responsibilities as well. And then following that is our house meeting. And the house meeting happens once a month as well. And you essentially relay any updates that you get from professional staff. So it could be important dates, events, etc. And it's also just a good way to bring up any concerns or questions that come up. Next is our house talk. Again, programming, you can do roughly 1 to 3 each month, but house talks are really nice. Like Had said, they're a really good discussion, kind of an informal conversation that you have with students following a theme. And it's really nice because people get to talk in a more casual setting. And then your building residence-wide event. Essentially, each building has to do an event per semester. So that could really be anything. We did a movie night, which was really nice. We had a bunch of snacks. We watched The Shining. It was for Halloween. And it was really nice because a lot of students from residence come. It could be in any of the 3 buildings. And then, yeah, that's kind of the how the month looks. Again, this is slightly a busier month, but it's good to see how this actually plays a role. And it's just good to see everything together. And then one other thing to note is as a Don, one of the key responsibilities or skills that you have to have is flexibility and adaptability because anything can come up on the spot. This is, of course, a pre-planned thing, but something to really note is a student concern crisis. That is not pre-planned. That can come up at any moment, at any time, and you just have to ensure you're there to support your students. And it can look different, but it definitely can add to the time commitment that you have. And again, it's more of that, it's like unexpected. But again, that's part of your role, and you just have to ensure you're supporting your students. So that's a really good snapshot there. Let's move on. Time commitment. So you can kind of already see there's quite a bit that the Dons do. So this can vary, but it's roughly anywhere between 10 to 15 hours a week. So again, that snapshot gives you like what that actually looks like. And another part that's really huge for the part of like time commitment for a residence Don or program Don is your pre-service training. So essentially, this happens 2 weeks in advance of orientation, and there's also like a 1 in-service day during the academic year. But to really talk about pre-service training, the 2 weeks, this is definitely very rigorous. It's important and for a reason because that is your training. That is how you know how can I support my students the best and how can I go into the year being a really good Don overall. And because I mentioned it's rigorous, it's definitely a 9 to 5, sometimes into evening, because you're also setting up your community, you're asking questions, you're getting involved with the team, you're bonding with your team. And this is something to definitely note because this is mandatory for all Dons to be part of, even Coco CAs. So this is definitely something you should consider, and that happens in August. Another thing is being a Don should be your primary co-curricular and or professional experience of the year. This is a large commitment, as you can already see. Things come up, so that's why it should be your main priority, because if anything comes up outside of being a student, of course, you need to attend to it because that's what you signed up for and that's what you are applying for. And lastly, balance academics and Don responsibilities. You're a student first, Don second, so of course, prioritize your school and being a Don, but make sure you're balancing that. A huge thing is time management, just ensuring you're getting everything done. Once you sign up, it's a really fulfilling role, but ensuring you're managing your time wisely will give you the most of this experience because it's really fun. You just have to make sure you're balancing everything well. Okay, let's move on. Now, benefits of being a Don. If you can't already tell, it's really great. So I'll talk a little bit more about some benefits. So you develop a really wide set of skills, and I mean really wide. You're talking with students, you're event planning, you're talking with different kind of stakeholders. There's such a wide variety. One of the skills I really wanted to touch on was active listening. I really developed this being a Don. And the reason for that is because, as I said, anything can come up in any moment, but also just within your own meetings that you have, you want to make sure you're supporting the students and kind of being a mentor to them. That's really a large part of being a Don as well. So in any way that comes up, you need to listen to them and make sure you're acknowledging their concerns or questions or just what they're saying in general. So this skill is truly important and that's so transferable with any other role that you do. Others include like event planning, there's just communication in general, collaboration, teamwork, etc. That kind of ties into the second point as well. All of this is so transferable. There's soft skills that you can use in any role. So it's really a great way for you to talk about that in an interview, on your resume, etc. It definitely helps, and people really enjoy that you have these wide set of skills that you can talk for. Next is building community on campus. This is really fun. This is probably my favorite part because there's just so much going on campus, especially just within residence. Of course, we're such a huge residence community. And because there's so much going on, you're able to just play a role into that, whether that's events, if you collaborate with resources on campus, like for example, the varsity event, you're building community, people kind of see what's going on, and it's just a really fun way for you to be involved. And lastly, the favorite part is being a part of the Don team. The Don team is so supportive, as you can see. It's just so much fun being part of other individuals who have the same goals as you and who want to just be there for the students. As you can also see, part of the staff shot, we meet essentially every week. So you're seeing so many Dons, even the professional staff, they're there to support. They're really great. And it's just a really fun part. And literally anytime you have a question, I remember one time I had a question at like 2 a.m. I messaged my Don, she was up and she was like, oh yeah, I can help you out. Even the head Dons are really great. Of course, do things, if you don't have the capacity to message at 2 a.m., you don't have to, but that's just to say that they're really, really great. And yeah, I'll pass it off to Jen.
Perfect. So I will be chatting just about the remuneration. So the Residence Don role is part of the USW Residence Don bargaining unit. So the wages are outlined in the collective bargaining agreement. Wages are paid in reoccurring monthly installments over the academic year and is equal to 50% of the fee for a standard room and 100% of the highest level meal plan. Additionally, in August, there is another payment of $500, and that is towards like pre-surface training with the extra work there. And then all Dons are provided a single occupancy room in one of our 3 residence buildings. And that room is yours from the beginning of pre-service training until May 1st. For this year, it'd be from May 1st, 2027.
All right. So we learned a little bit about the Don roles. And now we're going to move on to talking about what community assistants are. So in the chat, I would love for us to kind of brainstorm a little bit. What do you think a CA is, and what are some of the responsibilities? So you can use the chat or come off mute, whatever you prefer. So CA, okay. If not, no worries. It is a bit of a new role, so um, we can talk a little bit more about what a CA is. So a CA is a student staff member who supports UC's off-campus community. So Dawn supports students that are on residence and residence life. Community assistants are there to support students who are off campus and commuter students. And so what are some of the responsibilities of being a CA? So it can include things like supporting the orientation and transition of students through off-campus, commuter, and university life, and providing them opportunities to build connections with other off-campus students in spaces that commuter students often frequent. So places like the Commuter Student Center, which is the CSC, or the Clark Reading Room. It also includes fostering and sustaining an engaged off-campus commuter student community. So really just supporting students that are off-campus, students that you see often in the Commuter Student Center. And then also animating and providing programming in college spaces that are frequented by off-campus students. And this includes spaces like the CSC, as well as the Clark Reading Room, the Allery. And programming, it can look very, very different for everybody. So throughout the year, maybe during like midterm season, we might host events like study sessions, or like maybe like de-stressor events like bouquet making. So that's a really big part of being a CA. Also becoming well acquainted with off-campus students, student leaders, staff, and community members, and establishing a relationship of mutual trust and respect. So, just getting to know the students that are coming into those spaces, connecting with them. Student leaders include people like the UCOC, which is the UC Off-Campus Commissioner, orientation leaders. So sometimes you might get to do collaborations with them to host events and programming that are there to support commuter students. So like, for example, at the beginning of the year, the UC orientation coordinators work with like the COCO-CA team to host commuter-specific orientation events. And then lastly, hosting regular office hours within the CSC. And so this is at least 2 hours a week. And typically most COCO-CAs host them twice a week, so 2 hours twice a week. So now we can talk a little bit about the life of a CA. So we'll give you a little 1 month snapshot, similar to how we did for the Dawn role. So this can look very, very different from month to month, depending on if you're hosting a program that month. But once a month, what you will have for sure is the CSCD monthly meeting. And this is where all the CAs and the COCOs and professional staff come in, and we meet and we talk about, programming that is coming up, making sure everybody's up to date. And this is also a great place to bring up any like questions, concerns, ideas that you have. And this is basically a space where professional staff gets to kind of check in with the entire COCO-CA team. And then you would have office hours that week. So office hours twice a week, as you can see on the calendar, right? So those would be like 2 hours of office hours each day that you're hosting them. And during office hours, you get to connect with students that are in like the Commuter Student Center. You're able to chat with them if they have any questions, concerns. You as a CA are there to support them. And then you would also be, let's say this is a month where you're hosting a program that you want. You would also take some time to like plan for that program and submit that program proposal. So on this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, for example, in this month, you would take some time to plan that program, submit that proposal. You can also use your office hours to work on that program proposal. And then you also have a section meeting that happens once a month as well. So a section is basically when a COCO leads a team of 3 CAs. So each COCO leads a team of 3 CAs, and once a month you would host like a section active as well. And Louisa will touch on that a little bit more, but section meeting is the time you can use to kind of plan for that active. It's also a great time to get to know your team and also like bring up any ideas, questions, concerns you have. It's a great way for CAs to get support from their COCOs. And then you would also have CSCD one-on-ones. So this is a one-on-one check-in where you are checking in with a professional staff member. And these last about like half an hour long. And this is a great space also to like get support from professional staff, and get them up to speed on what your ideas are, what your plans are, and also bring up like questions, concerns that you have. The professional staff is very, very supportive, so the one-on-ones are really, really helpful. And then at the end of the month, for this snapshot, you have your active program. So this is when you would actually host that program that you were planning for earlier on in the month. And yeah, this is when you would basically host that actual event. And then, after that, you would evaluate how that event went and things like that. But this is a typical month for ACA. It could be a little bit, like the time commitment could be a little bit less depending on if you're hosting an event or not. So if you weren't hosting an event, you wouldn't have like the program planning or the proposal submission or anything like that. Yes, so now moving on to the life of a CA. So we talked a little bit about the responsibilities of the CA. Some things that are really, really important in the CA role are program development. So this is when you kind of learn how to develop and facilitate programs, depending on student needs. And then professional development is also a really, really key part of being a CA. So making sure that you're attending all the mandatory meetings, all the mandatory trainings, the workshop sessions. So Fatima and Ahad talked a little bit about in-service training, which is a training that is mandatory for like Dons, CAs, and COCOs to attend. And that training is there for you to develop professionally, but you can also, it's really, really great because you can also kind of apply it to your personal life as well. And then community engagement. So a really big part of being a CA is engaging with the off-campus community, as well as collaborating with campus partners and resources. And then exploring new ways to kind of develop engagement for these in-person spaces. So, for example, in the Clark Reading Room, how can we boost engagement so that students know of this space and are able to kind of reach out for support and connect with other students over there? Actively connecting with University College as well. So making sure that we're making use of those spaces and also connecting with some of the staff and like the leaders that are part of UC. Hosting weekly office hours, as we mentioned, to support and chat with students. Representing the college at events and gatherings. So for example, Fall Campus Day in November, you might have the opportunity to kind of represent UC student staff over there. And then building strong connections with student staff and the community. I think this is definitely one of my favorite parts about being a CA is just getting to connect with students and getting to know them and support them. And then evaluating outreach efforts and student engagement in activities. So just making sure, like, for example, if you're running a program, did that program do what it intended to do, right? Were you able to reach out and were you able to like connect with students? When you're running a program, you have to like list learning outcomes that you want for that program. So making sure evaluating whether or not you're hitting those is a really big part as well. And now I'll pass it off to Vidhi.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Vera. Let's talk a little bit about the time commitment. Okay, so time commitment for a community assistant is no more than 10 hours a week. So again, there is a little bit of flexibility to, we understand that you are students first, so we do offer flexibility for this to work alongside your class schedule. So while that monthly outline was a little bit of a busier month, I do want to make note that, again, this is like when you also have time. So maybe you don't have class on Tuesdays and you want to hold a program that day, and so on, as it gives you a little bit of an idea. And so 4 of those 10 hours are going to be office hours, and the rest are going to be used for planning programs, actually facilitating those programs, and so on. As of the 2025-2026 academic calendar year, community assistants are currently paid an hourly wage of $20. Other things that we're going to ask you to commit to if you do take on this role is pre-service training, as mentioned earlier. This is a 2-week training that happens in advance of orientation. Also 1 in-service day, which was briefly mentioned already. Another thing, just as the Dons, being a community assistant should be your primary co-curricular and or professional experience of the year. And also remembering that, again, you're a student first, so we're going to ask you to balance both community assistant and academic responsibilities. Back to Ms. Fiora.
So now, Thank you. So now let's talk a little bit about being about the benefits of being a CA. So being a CA is a really, really fun, fulfilling role. But there's a lot of like benefits to it as well. So starting off, development of leadership experience. As a CA, you get to gain a lot of leadership experience when you're planning events. You also gain a lot of like you have the opportunity to gain or improve your communication skills. Um, and then advising skills as well. You also get to improve your critical thinking and leadership. Because you're hosting events all the time, you're working with other student staff, you're working with professional staff. So there really is a lot of opportunity for you to develop these skills. And these are great professional, transferable skills that you can apply to really any role in the future. Um, so being a CA provides you with professional transferable experience to a range of roles, and it also includes the opportunity for advancement. So CAs kind of are led by COCOs, and so maybe in the future you will have the opportunity to, be in the role of a COCO, and give that same support to CA. So there's that opportunity for advancement. You get to build community on campus, and like I said, this is one of my favorite parts of being a CA, really getting to engage with the off-campus community, and really getting to support those students through hosting events or through just simply chatting with them. It's such a fun part of being a CA. And then lastly, you get to be part of the wonderful Coco and CA team, which is really, really great. The team is so supportive. Um, and it's just a really nice way to also like build a community of your own while you're building community for like off-campus students. Um, and yeah, I will pass it off to Louisa.
Thank you so much, Masfira. Thank you. I feel like we've addressed terms as CA and COCO quite a lot. So if you could just take a moment in the chat to brainstorm what do we think a COCO is and how the world differs from a CA. Coco is a leader. Yeah, to some extent, the Coco will lead a team of CAs. I'll address that as well. Someone that provides assistance with events, dons, and TAs. Right. So the Coco definitely does provide assistance with events and the CAs, but they don't work closely with the dons except during in-service training. I can answer to some questions to that as well. They have more responsibilities. Yeah, they do. We'll get into that a little bit more, but that's correct. Coordination of events. Yeah, that's right. I feel like you guys got the gist of it. That's pretty much it. But let's go a little bit more in depth. So, like people mentioned, a community coordinator is a student staff member who, similarly to the CAs, support University College off-campus community. So this is a student leader who, again, kind of like the way that a Dawn takes care of the students on rest, a community coordinator will take care of off-campus community and those who live close by. I think one of the key practical differences between a person who supports off-campus students and a person who supports residents is that usually in residence you'd have first years and second years in its majority versus an off-campus community we get students from all sort of academic journeys and in all levels of studying. We get them from like diverse majors, we get them from like diverse settings. So one of the key qualities of the COCO and the CA is to be adaptable to that. But returning to the responsibilities, I think number one, it's planning and implementing student life programming based on the needs and desires of the university college community. So this looks like talking to students and trying to address what they're struggling with, what you can do to support them in their moment. Secondly, and this is where the key difference between the COCO and CA is that the COCO will provide peer leadership, facilitate, and support a team of 3 community assistants. So our whole team is made of 8 people, where you have 2 COCOs and 6 CAs, and then the COCOs will each manage a team of 3 CAs each. But the COCOs still have to coordinate with each other and support the community and the team as a whole. Some other responsibilities, just moving on, include animating and providing programming in college spaces frequented by off-campus students, including but not limited to the Commuter Student Center, the Clark Reading Room, the Allery, and other UC spaces. So just continuing on to the next slide. Similar to the CAs, they also should provide appropriate referrals to university college staff, services, and programs to students experiencing personal, academic, financial, interpersonal, and social concerns. So during our office hours, that's the time we use to really chat with students, trying to understand what's going on in their lives and make an appropriate referral to a UC service. Luckily, UC has so many like great supports for students. So truthfully, our role is to be kind of like that bridge that connects students. And lastly, again, similarly to the CAs, hosting regular office hours in the CSC with no less than 2 hours per week. So going on to the life of a COCO, here's a 1 month snapshot. So you can see that is very similar to the CA's calendar, but there are some key differences. So I'll just go over it. Again, you have the monthly meeting. Usually this year is on Mondays, but usually it's based on everyone's availabilities. This is where you meet with the entire team of CAs and your COCO, and you have the chance, as well as professional staff. And this is the chance where you have to discuss what programs are happening each month. Usually we try to look a little bit more in advance. So we try to either look at the entire term or like 2 months in advance so people can plan around their events. This is also an opportunity for you to check with the team, see what kind of social media promotion you want to do for the month, anything that COCOs and CAs need help with. This is the moment where we would communicate that. Again, office hours held each week. Program planning, the COCOs are expected to run one active and one passive program per term. I can get into answering more questions about that as well. But in this month, let's say that's when you're submitting your proposal for your active. Something that you mentioned just as we approach the Thursday, the 12th, is that you have a section meeting planning. So kind of like Maspira touched on earlier, each month we have section meetings, which is the meeting between one of the COCOs and the section of CAs that they manage. So the COCO usually would in advance prepare an agenda of the topics they would want to address with their CAs. And then when the meeting happening, this is where the COCO would facilitate that meeting and check in with the CAs and make sure that all the items in the agenda are being addressed. So that's what the section meeting is. We again have office hours and then the one-on-one with the professional staff. This is for COCOs as well. It's a really great opportunity to, in the same way that COCOs support CAs, the professional staff will support you as well. So it's great to know that you have the support throughout your term. And then one thing that you notice over here is the Section Active program. The Section Active is kind of like Musfir touched on earlier. Once a term, COCOs and CAs in a specific section are expected to host an event with all the members of their section. So for example, not last term, but earlier this year, we did Cocoa and Cake, which was an opportunity for all the new students to come and meet the COCO and CA team. It was really great to have the entire team there, and we got some really good cupcakes. So that's what a section active is. And then you notice here on the 23rd, that is a active program for the COCO as well. So those are two separate things. One thing that I wanted to touch on is that you see here on the Thursday answering CA questions. Usually the COCO would address CA concerns throughout the term. This is not limited to a specific day, but you can also have check-ins with your CAs, not limited to the ones in your section, but just your entire team. If you see them in the CSC, if you want to shoot them a message, you have opportunity to answer those questions as well. So just going on into the life of a COCO, again, very similar to the life of a CA, but with that element of being truthfully like a team leader and a team supporter. So we have program development over here. Again, just addressing community needs and facilitating, designing, and implementing these programs to benefit the commuter student community. Professional development, again, you're expected to plan and set the agenda for these section meetings, so it's important that you not only attend them, but you're prepared for them as well. We have community engagement with collaborations across campus resources, exploring ways to develop engagement for in-person spaces. We also have actively connecting to the student college community, which, like Musfir said, is also my favorite part of being in the role, being able to build these connections and being actively involved in the UC student community and build a community of your own is frankly really a great experience to have. Hosting your office hours and representing the college at student events and gatherings, building a strong connection with the community and students and professional staff, and most importantly, leading and mentoring community assistants through team meetings and collaborations. So I'll just pass this on to Vidi.
All right, thank you so much, Louisa. So just to touch upon the time commitment for COCO. So as Louisa and also Ms. Vera mentioned, the COCO is meant to be a leader of leaders. So while the time commitment is similar, you'll find that the COCO will sometimes be spending a little bit more time on planning their section meeting and kind of being there to support folks in their section and also their team. So still the 10 hours per week, 4 hours of those hours are going to be office hours, 6 hours for program planning and facilitating programs, and also supporting your team of 3 CAs and the rest of the team. As of 2025-2026, community coordinators are paid an hourly wage of $25.44. And then same expectations of attending pre-service training in full, in-service training during the academic year. Being a community coordinator, that's what it should say, should be your primary co-curricular and professional experience of the year. And really, really important as you are student first to balance your academics and COCO responsibilities.
Yeah, thank you, Vidi. So just going on to the benefits of being a COCO. Very similar to the benefits of being a CA as well. This is a role where you can really grow into. So you can develop your leadership experience by hosting event planning, communication. I think the advising one is a really big one because now you're not only advising students, but you're advising your own team as well. So your leadership and advising skills, as well as your critical thinking skills, are truly, I guess, evolved in this position. There's also professional, transferable experience to a range of roles that you can apply to outside life, as well as build a community on campus and being a part of the COCO and CA community. So I'll just pass this on.
It's me again. So I will just quickly chat about the eligibility. So in order to be either Residence Don, Program Don, Community Coordinator, COCO, CA, this is for all of the roles. So you must be a registered full-time student at the University of Toronto for the entire 2026-2027 academic year and be in good academic standing. Additionally, you must be able to attend, you must be present for the entire year, including attending all of pre-service training, which is this year going to be scheduled from August 17th to the 28th. I don't have to be there for the weekends. It's just the Monday through Friday. It's recommended for Dons to have prior residence and or group living experience, but it's not a requirement for the role. And similarly, it's recommended for community coordinators and community assistants to have prior experience in living off campus. However, it's not a requirement for the role.
All right, we've given you all this information. Let's talk a little bit about the application process. So this is what our hiring timeline looks like. While it's on the slide, you're also able to find it on our website, and there's a link for that there. So the winter 2026 hiring timeline is our applications open. So applications officially opened on December 1st at 9 a.m. They're going to be due Sunday, January 11th at 11:59 p.m. If successful candidates out of this pool will be invited to do a mini interview from January 20th to January 25th, and successful candidates from that pool will be invited to do an in-person group interview, which we refer to as Carousel, on Saturday, February 7th. Offers for employment are meant to go out mid-March. And this is for the Dons, for the community coordinators, and also the community assistants. And again, if you forget this information, please visit our website for more information.
Okay, so we have next up we have our Q&A. So folks had an opportunity to submit some questions beforehand, so we've kind of compiled those. Vidi will do some moderating, and basically we'll have one person answer each question. Acknowledging the time, we'll do our best to get through all the questions.
All right. First question, what are you looking for in a successful residence Dawn application? I'm gonna ask one of the Dons to take this on first.
I can take this one to start off with. Um, Again, we're time constraints, so I'll try to be quick. The Residence Dawn team is a wide range of people. There's so many different backgrounds and perspectives that we bring in. So really, there isn't like one framework that I can give you that is the ideal Dawn. What I would say is that the Dawns across the board are very empathetic. They're people who have good listening skills. They are individuals who have prior experience with crisis management. And they're people who have great work ethics. So we're looking for people definitely on the team who can, again, be empathetic, really good at crisis management, and really holistically look at situations and think, how can I systemically break this down and choose the best path forward? If I was to summarize that very quickly.
Thank you so much, Ahad. I also do want to state that, like, if you don't have prior crisis management experience, please do not worry. This is what our extensive training that takes place in August is for. You will be trained for the role that you accept. So we will equip you with the skills to be able to do the role as well. All right, next question. How do you boost your application if you have no prior work experience? I'm going to direct this to one of the COCOs and CAs.
Yeah, I can take this one. I think one of the greatest ways you can boost your application is to truthfully get to know the students around UC. So searching for opportunities to get involved with the UC community, rather that looks like attending the UC Lit events, rather that looks like attending the community center or going to the library or just chatting with someone from ODOS stuff. Just truthfully getting to know the student community and being involved early on. It's a great opportunity to boost your application.
Thank you. What is one specific and meaningful thing I can start doing now that would help me be the kind of Dawn who truly leaves a positive impact on the floor? I'm gonna direct this to one of the Dons.
Yeah, I can take this one. Yeah, it's definitely a good step to start thinking about it early. I would say just start reflecting on your experience that you have, and especially after the session like today, see how that fits into the experience you have because it really does depend on can you talk about the experience? And like Vidi said, even if you don't have the certain skills that maybe you think you need, you will be trained for that. But what do you bring as a potential candidate, right? That's really what we're just looking for. So to reflect, see, does this match up? Like, is there a kind of an active listening component, communication, collaboration? That could be really anything, even if you don't have like work experience. It could be leadership, group work that you've done in classes, etc. There's lots of ways to do that. Just take the time to really reflect because you don't want to ramble on about all your experiences that aren't relevant. Pick really the strong ones, reflect on them, and really drive those in when you're doing your cover letter or any just experience overall that you're applying for.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Is the Residence Dawn COCO CA position limited to students whose home college is UC? I can let anyone take this question.
No
I can
is the yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll be really quick. It's no. When I applied, I was a Woodsworth student. And we have people from it isn't. You don't even have to be from the Faculty of Arts and Science. We have people with master in the master's program. Someone at the Faculty of Music. Yeah, you're fine. Apply from anywhere.
Thanks, Ahad. How big is the team? How many of each position are hired? I'm gonna let I guess I can answer
I was
this
gonna say I
one.
might be able to answer this
Okay, there you go, Jen.
one.
Thank you.
So the Residence Dawn team, it is 23 staff. That includes 3 head Dons, 2 program Dons, and then what is it, 17 Residence Dons? Don't check my math on that. And basically, it really depends on how many folks we have returning. So sometimes we have a lot of folks returning, sometimes we don't, but that's kind of what we're looking at. Typically, we hire anywhere between 9 to 12 Dons every year.
And for the COCO CA team, we have 2 community coordinators and 6 community assistants. What qualities make a student staff member especially successful in UC residences or off-campus roles? Anyone want to take this one? Who's going to come off mute first?
Yeah, I can take it.
Thanks, Fatima.
Yeah, so about qualities, I would say openness. You don't again, you don't really know what can happen on the like on your job, I guess, but just being open to whatever comes your way. Of course, you'll be trained for it, but there's only like when you train, you kind of do a general training, and then beyond that, it's like, okay, can I use my skills in this way? So that's my next point, adaptability or flexibility. Just making sure that with being open, you can just mold into another scenario that you need to. Also, just teamwork is huge. As you can see, we're doing so much work with others. So just making sure that you are able to do that, listen to other people's opinions, talk to them, etc. And lastly, I would say empathy. Students, they can go through so much. Even if you are like, why are they doing this? You just have to make sure that you understand everyone is different. They have their own set of things that they're bringing. So be empathetic towards everyone, hear them out. And yeah, I would say those are some qualities.
Thank you so much, Fatima. How flexible is the schedule for students who balance academics, work, and leadership roles? I'm going to get one of the Coco or CA to answer this question.
Yeah,
I
I
can
can
take
answer
this.
this. Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. No worries.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different for Dons and Coco CAs. For Coco CAs specifically, your availability is what matters. So like for office hours, for example, you would be hosting them when you're available. So it's flexible, and it's built kind of around your schedule. That being said, sometimes like, you will have to be able to like manage your time well. And I think this goes for like both the Don roles as well. So having like good time management skills, so that you are able to kind of balance all of your commitments. But it is pretty flexible because, like Viddy mentioned earlier, they do cater to the fact that you are a student. So you're a student first and then also like a staff.
Thank you so much. How does UC currently engage with commuter students, and what improvements are you hoping to make? Louisa, you can take this one.
Yeah, for sure. So currently, the way we engage commuter students, truthfully, is by animating spaces, making programs that students need or they would want to participate, talking to students in our one-on-ones, addressing their concerns. So, for example, recently we've had study sessions, we've had a beautiful winter holiday party just yesterday to really engage students and get them excited for the winter. So we try to engage them by throwing these programs and truthfully like engaging with them. For improvements we are hoping staff can make in the future, truthfully, I think it's just someone who can join our team who can continue to support commuter students that way. So continue to create engaging programming via passive or active initiatives, continue to chat with students and address their concerns, and just someone who truthfully wants to be involved.
Thank you so much. All right. Are individual schedules / timetables considered during and after the hiring process? I'm going to get Fatima or Ahad to take this.
So I would say during no, like not to my recollection, but afterwards, yes, in the sense like Fatima previously mentioned, we have like on-call shifts, so you're expected to, not when you're on call, not leave residence between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. And again, the dawn role is like supposed to be your biggest role on or off campus. So again, if you don't have the time commitment available, it'll definitely be considered in that sense. But yeah, there's tons of flexibility. Don't feel like the only thing you need to be is a dawn. That's not true. So many of us take on so many different roles, but without a doubt, across the board, dawn is our number one priority on that list of leadership roles we take on.
Thank you so much. All right. We do have 2 minutes left in this session. Before we let all of you go, I did want to say that if we did not answer the questions that you heard here today, I did want to leave some emails behind. So if you have any questions about any of the Dawn roles, please reach out to Jen. There's our email on there. And if you had any questions about off-campus roles, so the community coordinator or the community assistant, you're welcome to reach out to me. And my name is Viddy, and my email's right there. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today. We do have 2 minutes left. So if anyone did have any lingering questions, you're welcome to ask, but we'll try our best to answer them. But other than that, you're welcome to go. Once again, we hope you enjoyed this presentation and this info session. We'll be holding another one in January. So again, if you do have lingering questions, you're also welcome to still attend the in-person one in January. I'm going to stop recording here. Yeah. Thank you.